Yes.
I'm very happy to be here. It's good to see you all.
Oh,
I
I'm
can
so
see
excited.
t-shirts too.
Love it, love it. Oh my goodness. So how has this weekend kicked off for you so far? Have you had a good time here at Megacon?
It's been great so far. I've met lots of lovely people. This is pretty wild. I'm a bit scared being up here.
No, don't be scared. Don't be
I'm like,
scared.
no. Yeah, lots of lovely people so far.
Absolutely.
And it's always just nice to meet people who are like passionate about the same stuff that I care about and enthusiastic about these stories and characters.
Of course.
So it's good. It's good.
Yes! You guys are doing a good job. That's what we're talking about. So I got a couple of questions, just a couple of
I
things.
see on costumes too.
Yes.
This was my Halloween costume last year.
Wait, that literally was your costume, or that's who you cosplay as?
That's who I cosplayed.
Okay, I was like, yo.
You've got my costume on. I need that. It's quite scary though, because I was at a party and I remember I was like saying hello to people and no one can tell who you are. And afterwards in the car on the way home, I was with my wife and I was like, you know, I said hello to so-and-so and they didn't really they weren't nice. They didn't say hello back. And she was like, well, dude, they can't tell it's you. And I was like, yeah, but my voice, I don't know.
Look at my voice. They're like, yeah, but you're a killer right now. So, yeah, they were a little scared. They're like, hi, how you doing? Okay, so jumping into these questions, let's talk origin story. Would you say that you found acting, or did acting find you?
I was lucky. Acting kind of found me. My older brother and sister. My older brother wanted to act and did like the school plays, and I went to drama school. My parents weren't really involved in the industry at all, so it was like his passion for it then prompted my older sister to do lots of like singing and dancing. Before like television competition shows of singing and dancing, she won a theatre contest, and one of the other people involved was playing Oliver in the West End at the time, and his mom gave my mom this agency's info. Was like, hey, my older sister should have an agent. Then my mom took my older sister to this agency, and then the agency was like, hey, we'll take your son and other daughter too. So we kind of got an agent, and it was like our hobby, our family hobby.
That's awesome.
Through my brothers and sisters, that became my thing. That I would like be in plays and do dance classes and singing and stuff. I'm a terrible singer.
No. We don't believe that. We hear your voice right now. We don't believe it. But no, that's all. Did the agency get like a group rate by getting all of you guys at once? Like, I feel like whoever offered that is a genius. Like, wait, you're talented. Let's get them all.
Just throw them all in together as a bundle. Buy one, get two free.
It's a genius move. It's a genius move. I'm just saying. But I mean, getting to act at such a young age, were you aware of what kind of impact that could have on you as like a career or potentially socially? What would that do for you?
I think the only time it was weird was because I did this movie when I was 11 called About a Boy.
No. Say it just now. About a Boy. That's one of the greatest movies of all time. I said what I said.
It's a wonderful movie.
Yes.
I was very lucky to be in with Hugh Grant. If you haven't seen it, it is worth seeing. Nick Hornby wrote the original book. And just a wonderful, beautiful story about like an unlikely friendship. And that movie was kind of a big jump for me in terms of career, but then also I was very aware then that I'd had like, you know, quite, that was a successful movie, and as a child actor, that was like a big thing to be a part of. So I was aware that I'd had some success, but being an actor as an adult wasn't a guarantee.
Right.
And it doesn't always work out, because also when you're a child actor, everyone wants to talk about the child actor curse.
Right.
Which is kind of horrible. You're a kid and then you're aware of this terrible like doom that might be impending on your life. And you're like, oh yeah, great, thanks so much. So I was like aware of that, so I knew that at that point that I really loved acting and wanted to continue, but was also kind of cautious of it because I was like, there's a good chance you don't get to do this as an adult. And now I'm sat here with all you, which is pretty cool.
Now, since we brought up About a Boy, I think it's kind of important to understand like what that process of being in such a fun and crazy, you know, sort of film was like for you as a kid. I mean, like you're dealing with some very adult issues in terms of relationships and things like that. How cognizant were you about what the subject matter was of that movie?
I think, you know, you're aware.
Right?
But also at the same time, probably because you haven't had a lot of those experiences, the impact and the understanding of it isn't quite as deep as it becomes as you get older. It was interesting, I met a man earlier this evening who was like, oh, this was a film, he was talking about when he was like, I loved that movie for so long. And, you know, when I was younger, I connected with Marcus, the character that I played, and he was like, now I'm older, I feel like I connected with Hugh Grant's character. So it's something that I think you can kind of look back and see There's just different parts. It's like when you watch a movie and then you're like, okay, and then you watch it 5 or 10 years later and you go, I love this movie. And it hits in such a different way because you've had different experiences and take different things from it, I suppose.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so theater, television, games, or movies. How do you prioritize offers to keep your career flourishing, but also you being engaged?
Okay.
Getting existential. That's right.
I mean, it's always got to be director,
Right?
character, and story. Those are the 3 things. And look, the other cast. And there's so many different elements. Where it shoots. No, but there's this element of like the thing about acting I love is the variety of characters that you can play, and that's something that I try and really push myself. Is it's never like repackaging the same character,
Right.
but always trying to do something different, because I would bore myself, first of all, if I always did the same thing, but also I think anyone who's watching any of my films might be like, that's the same thing.
No, we'd still
over and over again. So it's about that, and then working with good directors, telling good stories, and just things that you really care about, because it becomes your life.
Of course.
For 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever, that's your whole focus, and everything else in your life kind of becomes about that character and that story, so you have to really deeply care about it.
I love that. In stages of your career, have you prioritized those different formats differently? Like maybe earlier on, theater was better. Right now, maybe film is better. Do you have a gauge for that?
I love making movies because I love going to the movies.
Okay.
So it's like something about being in the theater, the big screen, the big sound, the popcorn, it being a shared experience.
Yes.
That's something that I adore. So like, movies is always kind of the most exciting, but then also some of the best storytelling is happening now, and writing is now happening on TV. So like, one of my favorite characters I've ever played was a character called Peter in The Braid.
I think they heard me.
The most insane character, the Emperor of Russia, who is a complete imbecile on many ways, also wonderful and hilarious. And like that character I did for 2.5 seasons and had the best time playing. So I love doing TV for that as well, which is great writing with characters. And so and I haven't done theatre for over 10 years, 15 years. So it's time for me to do some theatre right now.
That's right. Now, in terms of theater, did you have like a favorite play that you would love to be in?
I want to go back and do some Shakespeare.
Let's go.
I've done Shakespeare like in a school play.
Yeah.
We did Much Ado About Nothing. Was the last one. I played Claudia. And I remember there was a fountain in the middle of the kind of the school stage, the set. They had like a fountain.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat in it one evening and the fountain was leaking and my trousers were soaking wet. This was quite early on in the play. And as I was sitting there, I wasn't smart enough to just be like, don't sit here, stand up, do something different. I just stayed sitting in the water and then spent the rest of the show like trying not to show my butt to the audience because my trousers were soaked through.
It's dedication. That's what that is. You're a dedicated actor. Well, no. So I gotta give some love to Nosferatu. Everybody seen Nosferatu? Very Shakespearean to me. I feel like that movie is kind of setting the stage for what the next generation of great actors are going to be like. And I gotta know, like, what was it like to get cast in this movie and actually perform with this beautiful, historic sort of backdrop and a great, creepy, gothic, but sexy story? Come on, y'all know it was sexy. Don't play like it was sexy.
It was sexy. I love Robert Eggers and his movies. I think they're so special and unique. He's a real auteur filmmaker. When you're watching them, you just know it's a Robert Eggers movie.
Yes.
And that's because of his detail in set design, in costume, in the language within the script. Even reading his script, it's like reading a novel. The way he describes the sound and the look and the feel of those movies. So that combined with Jared, his DP, and the way they make the movie look.
So good.
Like it looks incredible, it sounds incredible, and then he just has such a passion for that story. It's something he's been wanting to tell since he was, I think, 8 or 9, was when he saw the original Nosferatu, and then put on a school production of it, and then a production of it at his local theatre, and then after 10 years of trying to get that movie made, finally get it made. So it was a long road coming for him, and I met him after we did The Witch, which was a fantastic movie I loved. We went and had a few beers in Brooklyn. And I was like, I really like this guy. I'd like to make a movie with him one day. We kind of stayed in touch, and then he called me about Nosferatu. And it was just, yeah, such a special experience to work with all of that cast. You know, Bill Skarsgård playing Orlok, completely transformed. It was fantastic. And Lily Rose's performance was just undeniably brilliant. Physicality, the emotion of that. And also, I felt a little bit like going to drama school for me.
I can see that.
Learning, I had a bit of a weird year where I did that movie, and then I did a movie called The Order with Jude Law.
Come on.
Jude's here tomorrow.
Yes.
And then I went and did Clip Jury number 2 with Clint Eastwood. And all those movies, thank you. I shot those like, I had a weekend between each of them. So it was kind of this crazy, like, 5, 6 months of like, back-to-back, playing those characters and working with very different directors, telling very different stories. And it felt like I came out of doing those 3 movies like much improved as an actor.
No, I love it.
I learned a lot.
I love it. Make some noise today, y'all. It's one thing for us to enjoy your performances, and to hear your love of craft and see how that plays out in those performances is literally everything. My next question, literally from About a Boy to Mad Max to Renfield and more, there doesn't seem to be a genre that you haven't touched. Do you have a favorite to play in, or one that you're truly missing?
You know what? I really don't really look at the genre that much. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I feel like it's a story.
Right.
And people sometimes will be like, oh, the comedy you do, and I'm like, well, yeah, but I'm not like playing comedy.
Right.
When I do, I'm trying to just still be honest to the character and the emotions of it. So yeah, I mean, did I grow up loving some of like the classic Hugh Grant rom-coms of like Notting Hill and stuff? Yeah.
Yes.
Would I like to go back and do some of those? Yes. Do I like going and doing the big action movies like Mad Max? Yes, I love that. That's like the most electric atmosphere to be in. When they start up the engines of those cars in the middle of the desert, it's an intoxicating, wild place to be. So, you know what? Weirdly, I kind of said to myself that I wouldn't really do horror. Because in my mind, I've got friends who have done horror movies, and they were like, oh, it's so tough. It's all night shoots. You're constantly like being petrified.
Right.
Which obviously you're pretending, but at the same time you're trying to have a physical reaction and trick your body into believing what's happening. So it's screaming, running, out of breath at nighttime. And I was like, yeah, maybe I don't need to do that. And then I ended up on doing Nosferatu because I loved the script and Robert. And I remember like the first few weeks of filming were basically me inside Orlok's castle trying to escape. And as I was running around, sweating, frantically breathing, like panicked, I was like, I think I'm doing a horror movie.
No.
I think it's happening.
Yeah. There's a scene where you have this face of like, he's terrified out of his mind. Yeah, I believe it right now. No, I love it. Which is more your personal geek? Historical figure dramas or superhero comic book movies?
I mean, I love the superhero movies, but they're both kind of historic. You know, superheroes have been part of our culture for so long now. They are kind of, there's such a wealth of like backstory.
Right.
But they feel like they're part of that. I mean, I know it's recent history, but I feel like they are part of that history now, and they are, the modern storytelling of Greek mythology and heroes and all those sorts of things. But I also love like the reimagining of history that you can do now, where you re-examine it after some time. And maybe, it's not always completely accurate to the characters, whatever it might be, but in terms of, putting that distance between the times, you're telling the stories can make them, can mean that you can tell stories that are very relevant today, but because of that distance, they feel very palatable without you kind of pushing an agenda on anyone.
Very true. Very true. I have to admit, like your turn is Beast, Hank McCoy in the X-Men franchise. When Kelsey Grammer got the role, it was like, oh my God, that's perfect. And then you get the role, and we're like, no, that's perfect.
Kelsey was brilliant. So before we did First Class, I used to watch lots of Frasier.
Yes.
So I was like, he played the character, I'm doing a younger version of it. So I'd walk around and I'd go, Niles. And like, kind of impersonating Kelsey and kind of to try and get a bit of the accent and stuff.
I love it. Now, the transformation of doing Beast, what sort of physical work did they have to do? Was it time consuming? What was it like?
There was no makeup, that was all me.
See how deep an actor he is? That's what I'm talking about. The dedication. You take it
So there's been 2 different versions of the Beast makeup.
Yes.
There's the first class makeup, and then it changed for Days of Future Past. The makeups took around, you know what, the fastest, the makeup team were incredible. And they got the quickest time of doing these by the time we were doing Dark Phoenix. I think they got it down to 2 hours flat.
That's not bad.
They managed to get that makeup on.
How much coverage are we talking? Are we talking like just shoulder bust or what?
That's, yeah, full face wig, and then muscle suit. By the way, at first I was like, oh, we've got to wear a muscle suit. But now I know that everyone's wearing a muscle suit. No one's got. Anyway, so a muscle suit and then the costume. So yeah, and then feet and hands.
Gotcha.
Which the hands are kind of the grossest part in some ways because they put a lot of KY jelly get into them. So after a day of like KY jelly and sweat inside of those things, it's not pretty nice.
Someone would buy that though. I know it's someone would buy that. Those feet, man, it would make a lot of money on OnlyFans.
I've got the feet.
I said that out loud? I'm so sorry. Okay, so we
Talking, let's do an auction. I've got the feet. I genuinely do. I remember going home one time with my mum wearing them. Like slippers around the house. I was like, what are you doing? She was like,
okay, gotta talk about it. This summer, you're picking up the mantle of one of the greatest comic book antagonists, tackling the role of Lex Luthor. Why, in your humble opinion, would you say that Lex Luthor has been right in his opinion about the threat of Superman? Why is he right?
Start with the easy ones. Why is he right?
Yeah, why is he right? What is the true threat? I mean, literally, if you think about it, like this Superman guy, he shows up, he's like, oh yeah, I'm all good, I'm sweet. You know, I wear my underwear on the outside, that's not weird. And Lex is looking at him like, there's something about this guy that's not right. Like, there's something that is not true, it's not authentic. He's not using his powers for like human gain. Like, what's up with that? That's weird to me. I think is that true for your impression of Lex?
I think there's an element of if someone has ultimate power,
Right?
and the ability to do anything and be unstoppable, what happens when what they do doesn't align with everyone's belief of what is right?
Right?
And I think that, yeah, that's what I would say.
I like that. I think that's so important to kind of have the context. Because here's the thing. The best stories with an antagonist, not villain, but antagonist, is when that antagonist has a point. I think in your role as Beast, there are times where Magneto might have seemed a little right. You know, some things that he said, you're like, oh yeah. And I think this summer we're going to see that Lex is going to say some things. We're going to be like, yeah, he's kind of right about that.
I think that's the thing. James is such a wonderful writer. I think the way he's approached this story and world is very smart and fun, and it's complete. And the way he approaches every single one of these characters is unique and really fun. But yes.
Okay. I love it.
I have to be cautious about this.
Yes, of course. No, we're going to protect you.
So I'm aware that there's so much I want to say, but I'm also like, well, just don't give too much away. And then maybe after July 11th, we can all meet up again here.
Yes.
We can break it all apart.
Josh, it'll be absolutely amazing. I mean, to that end, we're going to live in this little Superman-ish world for a little bit. For you, what was your first entrance to Superman as a character? Was it a comic book? Was it a movie? Was it a cartoon?
I was seeing Smallville.
Yeah.
It was on TV, around the house, and so I was like, oh, there's Smallville. It was fantastic, and Michael does such a wonderful job.
Of course.
And I think he's here this weekend.
Yes, he is.
I spent a little bit of time with him, and I appreciate what he did as that character as well. So it's exciting to spend a bit of time with him. But yeah, it was Smallville, and that was original, and then seeing some of the Christopher Reeve movies, which were just fantastic.
Absolutely.
He's such a wonderful Superman. And even seeing that documentary about him recently, that was something that before we started filming, James and Peter Safran from DC got us an early screening of that documentary. So that was really powerful for all of us to see before we went into creating that movie, what it means, and seeing Christopher's story and his life and everything he stood for, his family. That was really special in terms of just the emotion and the depth and the importance of what we were creating, the history of it.
Oh, that's beautiful. Make some noise for that. We've got some fancy many questions I don't want to get into, but can I get geeky with you like one more time? Okay, so Hank McCoy is a very smart guy. Lex Luthor is a very smart guy. Which one, in your opinion, is smarter?
I can say this because I think James has said it. He described Lex as also almost like a magician level of intelligence.
Okay, okay.
And the science level that he's working on.
Absolutely.
I think Lex. And I also think that's partly because he could potentially be, you know, where Hank would show caution, Lex
Right.
wouldn't.
That's true. That's true.
So I think that's probably propels the pace that you move at and things that you do faster.
I love it. I love
I
it.
think that's a clean
No, that's
answer.
great.
Interestingly, just to relate those characters together, interestingly, the makeup team who did Beast, a lot of them were doing the next makeup.
Seriously?
Yeah, so it was a nice reunion, and some people came up to me earlier and they were like, oh, how does it feel to be playing like the hairiest character or the most mortal character? And I was like, well, it's like makeup team, essentially. So.
It's like that's how hardcore you guys were. I don't want hair anymore. I just don't want to do it anymore. Take it all off. No, I love it. Megacon has some of the best fans, and I think they're bringing out the best fans of yours. So they've submitted some great questions. Dylan W. from Orlando. Hopefully you're in the room, Dylan. If so, shout out, shout out. The question is, you've played everything from a zombie to a vampire to Beast in the X-Men. Which role required the most transformation, and how did you prepare for it?
They all require a lot of work. I think
Yes.
purely in terms of physicality, Nux in Mad Max required a lot. That was because George Miller wanted to, you know, when you meet that character, he's meant to essentially be, you know, knocking on Valhalla's door essentially in his last day. Hence why he needs a blood bag and all those things. So George asked me to lose a lot of weight, so I think I lost like 20, 30 pounds. So I wasn't.
In how long? Like how long did you have?
I had a few months.
Okay.
So I had some time. But yeah, so that was difficult physically.
Yeah.
And each character is different mentally how you prepare. So it's really, if you've got a lot of time, it's lovely. For me as a fan, it's beautiful. Right. You go back and read a lot of comics. Like one of the first things I got sent after getting cast as Lex Luthor was the production company. It was actually really sweet. The production company who made the great MRC sent me the 75 years of Lex.
Seriously?
Book.
Oh, that's awesome.
All like the comics that focus mainly on Lex and all of his history through the the bronze and silver and gold era of comics. And so that was wonderful. Like it was very kind of them to share that with me. And then that was my homework and research for a couple of days. Was just sitting reading comics, and then more comics.
Goals, goals. Okay, I love that. No, that's absolutely brilliant. Sienna R from Miami wants to know if you could swap roles with any actor from The Great for one episode, who would it be and why? Any actor. Any actor.
Interesting. You know who I really, there's so many great performances in that show, and I love all of the actors. But Doug, who plays Elemental,
Good call.
he's so funny to be in a scene with, because it wasn't in the script describing the character, but he added all these like belches and like heavy breathing and like things. And the first time doing a scene with him, we were all dying with hysterics because we didn't expect it, and it wasn't scripted. And he's suddenly doing all that stuff, and so I'd like to switch with him for a day, and wear his fat suit as well. He had
the muscle suit. You want the fat suit?
Yeah, he had a fake belly and stuff. He was just great as that character.
That's awesome. Would you do different belchy sounds? Would you try?
He did one that was really funny. It was like a burp and then swallow.
Oh.
Yep, so hard. Really funny.
So delicious. So delicious. Jordan T from Tampa asks, you've been acting since you were a kid. What's the weirdest or funniest audition experience you've ever had?
Ooh. Weirdest. I've done some weird ones. There was one where like there wasn't a language for the character, you just had to like bark.
That's the audition?
Yeah, so there was like bits that you do in English, and then you'd have to pretend to talk to another character and bark. Like you understood, and then they'd bark back, and you'd be like, oh, bark. And then carry on.
This was X-Men First Class. No, you're gonna play Janet Beats. You're like, oh, cool.
You know, X-Men First Class, the weird request for that audition was do one take as Stewie Griffin. I was from that before. So I was like, Hoult kills broccoli. So I was like doing like the Hank characters, but as Stewie Griffin. I don't know, some weird stuff. Yeah, I was doing some weird stuff as an actor. When I was auditioning for The Favour, Yorgos, the director of that, would have you like hum and dance and imagine and follow like imaginary beams of energy around
Right.
you and sculpt like all these like
It's fun.
kind of games
Yeah.
to prevent you from acting, I guess, in some ways, and like focusing too much on the scene. And then the rehearsal period for that film was similar. We spent 2 weeks with all the cast kind of, you know, dancing and playing games whilst doing scenes. It was really weird but fun.
I love it. I love it. That's a great question. Isaac L. from Jacksonville wants to know, your fashion choices always stand out on the red carpet. True. Do you have a favorite look that you've worn?
Thank you.
Yes.
Do I have a favorite? I don't think so. No. Sorry, I don't.
The suit you wore on your wedding day, right?
Yes.
Yes. That's
Special.
We're so cool.
Best red carpet of all time.
I don't think I have a favorite. That's
fair.
terrible.
That's 'cause you
Shout
look
out to
like
Wendy and
that's
Nicole
all.
who helped me do styling because that's more than.
I love it. Yes. Always shout out the stylists. Yes, very important. Yes. Gabriel S. from St. Petersburg wants to know, in Mad Max Fury Road, you had such an intense, high-energy role. What was the wildest moment on set?
I was on set. I think the vivid memory that I always go back to is we'd turn up in the mornings in the middle of the Namibian desert, and all the vehicles would line up. Actually, no, this is weird because also you'd be sat in like your trailer or whatever, getting ready, and you'd walk out, and they'd have built like motorcycle ramps for dirt bike riders to practice doing jumps, like in the base camp. So you'd walk out and you guys like flying 30, 40 foot through the air doing these jumps, like on like doing dirt bike two-strokes. Going, you'd be like, this is a weird place. It's awesome. But seeing like the stunt team on that movie just did such incredible things. I remember at one point, probably the thing that I was like, oh, this is kind of wild, was there's a moment in the movie where I've gone to fix an engine, and I'm like hanging underneath the war rig. And in my mind, I was like, well, it's probably a stunt. And then one day in rehearsals, they're like, okay, throw that helmet on, we're going to clip you to the bottom of the truck and drive along, you just let us know if you're happy or whatever. And I was like, hanging this far off the ground. Right by they were like, don't move too far this way, because that's the front tire. So hanging underneath this wall rig going along in the desert with the snow, like the sand, and dust getting kicked up. So that was kind of a wild place to be. I remember hanging there and like, oof. Good day at work.
No, I wouldn't do it. I'm just saying, like,
I love doing all that stuff, but that's also what makes the movie special. Is you're in those environments, really doing those things.
Of course.
So the energy that gives you in terms of a performance is like it's right there.
That's fair. That's fair. This is why you're the actor and I'm just on stage. So Ava K from Fort Lauderdale wants to know, and obviously this is we're future tensing this one. If you could play any superhero or supervillain in the future, who would it be at the top of your list? Obviously, Lex for forever.
There's so much I want to do with Lex.
Yes.
But I would hope that I get to play that character for a while.
No, clap for it. We want. Yes.
Might have auditioned to play some other ones. Didn't work out.
I think overall it might have actually given us what we needed.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like also I'm excited to see what Marvel will do with the X-Men.
Sure.
Because I love playing Beast, and I'd be open to playing that character again. Outside of that,
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, also let's not limit it to American comics. Let's go UK. Like maybe Judge Dredd. Would you be interested in some Dredd action? Maybe.
That'd be good. Would I be good as Judge Dredd? What do you guys think? Are there any characters that I should play?
The only person you shouldn't play is anyone that's not actually in the movie. Like you're phenomenal. Like come on. Like
I haven't got an answer for that. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna think about it. We'll come back.
we'll work on that. Logan J. from Naples asks, you've worked with some amazing directors. Is there someone you haven't worked with yet that you'd love to collaborate with?
Oh, Ari Aster. Obviously, I'd like to be in like a Tarantino movie or a Scorsese movie.
Yeah.
What else do I really love? I mean, I loved Aurora. Someone that's something I saw recently that I loved. Yeah, there's so many. Those are the first four that comes to
I
mind.
love it. I love it. Let's make that list, and we'll just check those off. And just build your career. I think it's that's the thing. Mason P from Pensacola wants to know, if you had to survive in a post-apocalyptic world like Mad Max, what's the one thing you absolutely need to have with you?
I need a piece of flint to start.
That's so genius,
Because I don't want to light another run out.
right?
No more matches.
Nope.
Yeah, so I need a piece of flint probably. Because I can't, I've tried to start a fire, just like, with the making the bow.
That's not it. That's not
I
it.
got like a little bit of smoke and the wood was maybe warm.
Right?
But it was not anywhere near catching fire, so I need to be able to make fire, so I get one of those, a piece of flint.
I like that. That's genius. I mean, in a world like Mad Max, you almost forget the prevalence and necessity of fire. But when you have it, man, like, you're king of all
Oh,
things.
yeah, does anyone watch Outcast? Does anyone watch that?
Yes, yes.
Or the groups have to watch, the groups have to out-survive each other. I was watching that the other day, and one group couldn't start a fire for 5 days. So this is why I think it's like in the forefront of my mind. I need fire.
I need fire.
I
Fire.
need to go to start a fire. They had flint, and they still couldn't start a fire. Yeah, so I'm like, maybe I don't need the flint, maybe I just need it's like an electric heater that I can plug in. Do we still have electricity? Probably not.
Maybe. I mean,
A generator? A generator.
You can crank it. You can crank it. You'll get it.
And then, yeah.
Last in this group, we've got Eleanor M. from Austin, Texas, asking, what's the most unexpected or funniest thing a fan has ever said to you? I feel like Eleanor has said something strange to you and wants to know. Do you remember me? Did I say the weirdest thing?
You know what? It's not a weird thing, but occasionally, like I remember I was at a lunch restaurant like not long ago, and I glanced over at another table, and the guy like, I looked at the guy and he was going. He was giving me the V8 symbol, and at first I didn't clock it, and I was like, and then it took me a moment, and I was like, oh, you see that? That's Mad Max.
Absolutely.
The V8 symbol, so I did it back, and I was like, oh, I get what this is going on here. So it wasn't weird, it was just like out of context.
Got you.
I didn't understand what was happening, and then I was like, oh, that's that signal.
I get it.
And now I get what's happening. So that wasn't that weird.
What would you have done if, like, you took too long and he looked at you and you're like, mediocre?
I'd have been disappointed if he did that.
That's fair. That's very fair. I think we've got some fun things that we're going to give out to the crowd. So I'm going to ask the stage managers to bring our supply from backstage. And while they do that, hopefully they heard the voice of God and ask for these things. While they do that, my last question for you. When it comes to acting as a career choice, I mean, obviously this was something that started as a hobby for you, but you wanted to take this passion and make it your profession. What's something that you would tell any aspiring actor that they should consider moving forward?
It's interesting, I just saw a video the other day of the phone. And someone was like, what advice would you give to somebody who wants to act? Yeah. And it was like, I've got no advice. I was like, you're Willem Dafoe.
You are acting.
You know what? It's weird, but I think my advice is like, for me as an actor, I'm always trying to experience the most in life, because then I feel like if you just have experience, you have things to base characters and stories on. So it's like as much as you can travel and explore and meet people and act and do things. I think that's it. It's just living as much as possible, and acting as much as possible, so that you kind of build up that base to.
That's awesome.
Like it's the practice of doing it, but it's also the practice of just living life and being aware and like understanding and being with people and observing, and then being like, okay, this all makes sense. Reading lots of books. I read lots of books like that. I'll just find stories that motivate me.
That's right.
It all kind of travels back where you go. Someone was asking me the other day about. I did this movie called The Order with Jude Law.
Yes.
I think I mentioned that.
Yes, you did.
Sorry, but
So
the
good.
character in that is like kind of he believes that he's got this plan on how his life's going to end. And when I was learning about that character, I was like, oh, this reminds me of doing Mad Max with ducks, because he's already, you know, intent on going to that actor. So I've read all these books about that. So I kind of, the knowledge I've learned for that basically helped inform this character. So even though they're not related, there's always like webs.
Yeah.
They kind of,
There's threads, they're all connected.
They're all connected together. So the more you read and learn and do, the more you have to put into any character going forward.
I love that. What I love the most about it is, though I asked about acting, I think that applies to anything that you do. Live life and find the story within the things that you experience. That's absolutely brilliant. We do have some shirts.